Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I am joined by regular co-host Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben. How you doing? All right?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling all right. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm lamenting the fact, not lamenting, I'm reflecting on the fact that guest we had scheduled this week, unfortunately had to reschedule. All the best to them. We'll catch up again soon,
Yes,
but
we will.
they've left us with the gift of watching action horror comedy, action horror classic 2003's Underworld, which has left me asking a lot of questions about
Right.
myself of 20 years ago.
Yeah, me too. So, I mean, I did look at when this film came out. It was September 2003. So we're very fast approaching this 20th anniversary of this film. I also wasn't aware there were five of these movies, and I'm not sure how many I've seen. Two or
I've
three?
seen, I've almost certainly seen two, and then I think the third one is a prequel, which I'm at least aware of.
Nice.
Um, and then it goes back, and I don't think I've seen the last two, maybe,
Yeah. Are you going to watch all the others as well?
probably, because I feel I'm going to need to carry on now. And I also,
Completionist.
having re-experienced this one, I feel like they're probably quite easy to have on in the background. I don't think you're gonna. Who's that then? I've lost track.
You say that, but I was definitely like marginally confused for a while. I couldn't work out who was a vampire and who was a werewolf for a while in this film, especially at the start when everyone's just in coats and just with guns. It's difficult to tell. I don't think there's anything. What like really? What? Because they both got like fangy teeth. They all look pale. There's not really anything apart from that and the man with the deepest voice known to human beings.
You mean Rays? That's the character's name, Rays. Yeah, they're very. I don't know.
Sounds
Uh,
painful. Sounds
that,
painful to talk like that. I'd be
I feel
like,
that's as deep as
can't
I
do
can
it.
go, and I'm not touching it. I don't know.
I
So
no, I can't even do it. It's
yeah,
unbelievable. It's ridiculous. Um, Also got like kind of Resident Evil vibes, and I guess like in terms of franchises, these both started at a similar sort of time. And I mean, I'm just guessing, but Underworld wasn't as successful. I don't think.
I don't know. It's almost as many sequels. It's obviously done all right. I think I messaged you when I was watching this that there is almost certainly. I'm not going to Google it. I advise anyone at home not to either. I bet there's no end of
Fan
Selene
fiction.
slash Alice fan fiction available online for all
Oh
of
hell
your.
yeah,
There is a great number of fans absolutely would have creamed their jeans to see these two on screen together.
yeah. Oh
Especially
yeah,
like
well
Resident
like a
Evil 4
crossover.
Alice, where she basically was dressed as Selene, big leather jacket, running around with machine guns.
Yeah. It's just a weird film, and Scott Speedman in this film, who plays Michael Corvin, absolutely useless from start to finish. He's always tied up, unconscious, having pains because he's turning into some sort of vampire
He's
werewolf
infected with something. I
crossbreed.
feel like Scott Speedman, no disrespect to him as an actor or to the rest of his body of work, but in this film, he comes across very heavily as a kid that won a competition to be in this movie, as somehow the most important character slash MacGuffin of the film.
Definite MacGuffin, yeah. It's absolutely impossible for vampires and werewolves to exist together. Why do they hate each other so much? What's the problem?
It's because they used to work for
Honestly,
him, didn't they?
what's
Because the real enemy of this film, as I learn now, 20 years ago, Ben, 2003, watching this, wouldn't have got this real subtle message here. But what we quickly learn about 20 minutes in is that the true enemy of this film in a post Barbie world is clearly patriarchy and then inherited privilege, because that's the main problem with the vampires, right? Big
yeah.
posh knobbers they are.
Big
Just
posh numbers. And also, do a day's work in your life. Oh, I'm going to sleep for a bit, going to sleep for a few centuries, whatever. And then I'm just going to wake
yeah,
up and be absolutely fine.
and do I would say the highlight of this movie for me, the best on-screen scoffing I've ever seen. But
Yeah.
that's how he
I mean,
does it.
he's just a good scoffer in general, Bill Nye,
He's
isn't he? I'm assuming
always
you're saying Bill Nye, aren't you?
yeah, he's scoffing at everything in that. But he's like, Really trying to hush her. So,
Yeah.
oh, the werewolves have got these special every time.
I will
Every
also
first
say,
mention.
obviously, before we get into to the review of the film, I will also say, I without spoiling how I think about it, I remember pretty much quite liking this, and I couldn't really work out why when I watched it this time. So 20, like me of 20 years ago, 16-year-old me would have been when this came out. For some reason, was into this. What's wrong with him?
I'd imagine Litchfield's own Kate Beck. I don't know if she's from Litchfield. I don't know where I've got that information from. Kate Beckinsale. You know, I know she was in other
I don't know
things as
if
an
it
actor, but
was that though.
this is what she was from. Um, there was you were a
I don't know if
16-year-old boy, then there's a lovely lady in a big leather jacket, like off the
yeah,
Matrix, and
maybe.
shooting guns at people. It's all dark and moody because there's vampires and werewolves, like you like.
Just says she was born in London. She's 50 years old now, Kate Beckinsale. And I do follow her on social media, and she looks pretty much just as good now as she did then.
It's the
Yeah, I don't
Hollywood
know.
lifestyle for you.
I don't know if I did just have the horn for Kate Beckinsale because I didn't feel like that about Mila Jovovich in Resident Evil. I think I did in The Fifth Element.
You had too much
Um,
respect for the relationship her and her husband have, I imagine.
oh
Because
yeah,
you couldn't
definitely.
come between them.
Couldn't do that. And also she had amnesia, and I feel like that would been taking advantage of someone by trying to make
There's
them fall in
definitely a
love with
power
you.
dynamic in play there. Yeah, if someone's got
Yeah. You
amnesia.
got amnesia? What's this? 51st dates where I just go up to you every day and convince you that me and you are in a relationship by presenting a notebook full of our memories? Strange.
Very odd, very odd. But yeah, you didn't have that with Kate Beckinsale. She was out. She was moody. She's
Yeah.
the character in control, and she's
And this
wazzing
is
big
very
Beyblades into werewolves, all
oh
sorts of
yeah.
stuff.
This is like a post Matrix action epic, and they just happen to have added some like supernatural elements as well. This is like, did Equilibrium come out after the Matrix? It did, didn't it? So it's
Oh
just like
yeah,
Americanized gun fu. That's what we call it, isn't it?
yeah.
Not
So
the
you've got some gun fu in there. You've got leather jackets, and also, of course, Ben, we're talking about the crossover. We get the crossover between the Resident Evil franchise and Underworld in the shape of one Wentworth Miller, who
oh
is
yeah. Oh my god, yes.
Doctor Extra character in this.
Doctor Extra character. Yeah, that's great. What another thing I like is when vampires and werewolves are about to face off. A vampire, it will just wait for the werewolf to transform.
Yeah,
Don't attack yet. Don't attack until it's fully transformed. And
that's
that
like
is full.
cutscene animation. You can't interrupt that.
Yeah, horrific. Okay, right. So we better let's not say too much. We've
Let's
said
get
enough.
back into well, let's pause the world of Underworld. Imagine this is like when the sun has come up. All those vampires and werewolves have to go night nights for a bit.
Another
Some horror
another thing that's
news.
kind of crazy is that we haven't covered this before. I kind of thought that was kind of mad. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's one. We obviously did Resident Evil fairly quick out the blocks. Okay. So in terms of horror news for this week, obviously we have had some sad news. Oscar-winning filmmaker William Friedkin has passed away. He obviously made The Exorcist. So in terms of horror royalty, he's definitely right up there. And obviously other films such as The Thin Blue Line, Boys in the Band. Obviously, he won an Oscar for The French Connection. Sorcerer, Cruising. I mean, Cruising is a great film. Rules of Engagement, The Hunted. I mean, absolutely loads of films, and obviously winning Oscars as well is pretty insane. And again, mad to think like The Exorcist was like winning Academy Awards, especially the way the Academy Awards seem to treat horror these days. It's kind of crazy that that film captured captured the award scene the way it did. I don't know if you've seen the William Friedkin documentary as well that came out just a few years ago.
I
I watched
haven't.
that, and it was really interesting to see the relationship he had with the writer of the novel as well. Leap of Faith is called. Leap of Faith, William Friedkin on The Exorcist. If you can find that, and I'm pretty sure that's on Shudder. I don't want to throw it in there, but I'm pretty sure
You've
it
said
is.
that, and that'll have been delisted because
It's
you've
been
said it.
delisted, yeah. Um, just really interesting to see his take on sort of filmmaking, and he seems like an app, like just a straight up movie fan. I think I've seen some videos of him in the Criterion collection, you know, in the little cupboard,
Yeah,
just having a little look through.
that covered the keep
Um,
the Criterion collection in.
yeah, and obviously filmmakers who've been sharing their experiences with him since the news of his passing. People like Guillermo del Toro, people like, well, just loads of directors who were like, anytime I needed to pick his brain, he was always willing to talk to me and always willing to give me advice or explain certain things. And I thought that was really nice, because some directors, especially like successful directors, Oscar winning directors, might be like, screw you.
Yeah.
So that was great to sort of hear. And it's sad that he's passed away, 87 years old. So
Good
I
innings, a
think,
good life, and some excellent work to remember him by.
yeah, I think go and watch The Exorcist again to celebrate
The version you
the
didn't see,
life.
50th anniversary, out now-ish,
Exactly.
right? So obviously it's at Fright Fest, and I
Yeah.
believe it's available on VOD as well.
Yeah. Um, 10 out of 10 film, I think. 5-star film. I watched Sorcerer for the first time in a while recently. Really enjoyed it. Obviously not a horror film straight up. I think Cruising is one of those films definitely it's worth revisiting because that I don't know, have you seen that, Andy?
No, not
With
seen
Al
Cruising.
Pacino. That's a great thriller. I think definitely go check that out. Yeah. Rest in peace, William Friedkin, and check out that documentary as well. Um, yeah, and in terms of other news, based on our episode last week, Talk to Me 2 is officially in the works for May 24. I don't know if it's going to be called Talk to Me. Who knows?
Well,
Maybe. I think
yes,
maybe they've
you'd
joked
hope
about
so.
that. So yeah, it's been confirmed. I don't think anything. I think obviously it's made a half decent amount of money based on the budget, which was just $4.5 million. Looks like the gamble's paying off big time, obviously for first time directors as well. Danny and Michael Philippou. Um, but yeah, very excited. I think we did mention last week what would we say to the news of a sequel. I think we were like, yeah, why not? Another standalone film, probably with obviously different characters and maybe in a different country if that's where the hand has gone, where the hand has crawled. Um, so yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'd like as it's called Talk to Me, maybe my new suggestion here is we do like the Look Who's Talking series, and we have Look Who's Talking, Talk to Me 2,
Mm.
TOO, and then
Yep.
it's people, and then you have both of the hands, and then
Yep.
you can do like dual talking, like a group call.
What's Bruce
Um,
Willis gonna do? Who's he gonna do the voice of?
um,
Anyone?
anyone, all
the
of them.
hand. The hand has
Um,
got its own voice now.
and it's just his natural speaking voice. And then, of course, Talk to Me Now, where it's dogs this time.
Yeah. I
Crosses over
mean,
with Pet Cemetery, the crossover we've always wanted.
yeah. There we go.
There we
That's it.
go. Franchise
Listen,
planned out. You're welcome, everybody.
if they're wondering what are we gonna do? Talk to me. Well, there you go. You got it. Andy's worked it out for you.
From the
But yeah,
creators of Boo Year's Eve. Talk to Me Too.
I mean, it's pretty great that like an original property does well, in a world. It's not a world full of sequels and remakes. It's not. However, to the average cinema goer, I think it can often seem like that, and I completely understand why. But it's great to see a original property getting its plaudits in a way, and it was our one of our favorite films of the year so far, based on our
Yeah,
review from last week.
it's up there
Yeah,
for sure.
go back and listen to that last week's episode if you want to hear some great takes as well from Becky. I think Becky had a lot of really interesting things to say based on the film, things that I like. Well, okay, that gives me
It's
another
the benefit of a
understanding of the film.
professional pair of eyes that's seen it twice, isn't it? She had loads of good insights, things that I'd
Yeah,
certainly missed.
it's good. It's good. Okay. And the last piece of news I've got is that there was like a viral cartoon from a guy called Adam Ellis that was around on Twitter probably in 2017, something like that.
Mhm.
And I remember hearing that, oh, they're going to make a movie of this. And I was like, what? That sounds pretty nuts. But it is. It's true. It's called Dear David. It's coming to the big screen from Lionsgate, I believe.
Okay.
And it's a story, and it was a story told via tweets and like and some cartoons because he does a lot of satirical cartoon stuff. Adam Ellis, he's got a great sense of humor, always retweeting his stuff. But he started telling a story about his apartment being haunted by the ghost of a dead child, and he's trying to kill me.
Oh, I
Um,
think I did see some of this now. Yes.
yeah, and I think yeah, so now it's being made into a film. A screenplay has been written, a terrifying, creepy, sensationalist story that will translate perfectly to the big screen. Um, yeah, there we go. I don't really want to say it. There's a poster as well where it looks like there's Yeah. It looks a bit like a
Well,
ventriloquist doll face, but
I might have to double check my things. I've looked up Dear David on Letterboxd to add it to my list, and the
someone else comes
synopsis of
up.
the film that's going to appear is a secret fantasy blog might jeopardize the promising future of, of Laris, a talented student, when the blog is revealed to her entire school. I mean, real life horrors
We got
there.
your bloody blog here. We have. It's a bloody embarrassing.
There's
Blog
another
spot.
one. There's another Dear David. I clicked on the wrong one, but they're both out this year. So there are two Dear
Yeah.
Davids. Make sure your nan doesn't buy the wrong one on home video cassette, everybody.
Don't get a putting challenge instead of
Yeah.
what's it
Oh,
called?
Nan, what else do you want for Christmas? Do you want an HMV match? Oh, no, it's a bit impersonal. Will you just go and buy me a copy of Dear David, please? Okay.
I will. See
The
you
real life
later.
horrors of your high school reputation ruined.
That's all right. You just say thanks, Nan. I really like it. I feel really grateful. I mean that's it for horror news. I guess we should move on to what we've been watching. Although I haven't seen all that much this week. I know we've been doing some Fright Fest planning.
We
Uh,
have.
sorry, I definitely can't say it anymore since we've been joking about saying it. Fright Fest prep by watching some movies that we're probably not going to watch when we're at the event. And yeah, prepping. We're going to do some interviews of films, from filmmakers
Just trying to
in the
get
build up.
complete in it. See how much we can see, Ben. See how much we can take
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
Get our questions
Completionism.
ready. So
Complete.
far on my list, I'm not going to give any details, but so far I've watched Isaac, New Life, Law, and Thorns. All
There we
films that
go.
are on at Fright Fest, different genres, um, different like productions of different like budgets and so on. It's a
Yeah,
good showing so far this year. I've been enjoying everything I've been watching, but we got another couple of weeks of prep yet. See how much we can absorb to make sure we've checked off as much of that list by the time we get
yeah,
there as we can.
definitely. I need to get started. The only things I've really seen this week, I've been to the cinema a couple of times. I was a bit behind, so I had to get myself to the cinema to see Oppenheimer, which I just saw yesterday, maybe the day before, yesterday. And then earlier this week, I went to see Meg 2 as well. Meg 2,
Well,
The
so did
Trench.
I. What did you
You
think
did as
of
well.
Meg
Oh
2? I
wow.
did. Saw Meg 2 this
Okay.
weekend.
Directed by Ben Wheatley, which is mad, isn't it? Really, when you think about it. Um,
A little bit,
obviously
yeah.
it is. So Kill List. I think episode 2 of this podcast we covered that. One of my, I mean, definitely up there. Some of my favorite sort of horror adjacent films.
And In the Earth as well.
In the
Absolutely
Earth.
insane bit of
Yeah.
horror.
Yeah, I mean, this is like obviously. Well, I think Free Fire had a big budget, and I think like High Rise and obviously made Rebecca. They're all sort of more mainstream films, but Meg 2 is like a blockbuster essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, I think I definitely preferred the original. I think it takes a while to get going. I think that maybe the final 30 minutes are really enjoyable, really silly, stupid, over the top, even
On
more
Fun
so
Island, the
on Fun
placeholder
I
name that was never replaced.
on Fun Island when they're like, hang on a minute, how can it's fine when you're on land in it? No, no, we got
No.
these other creatures as
Fun
well.
Island, where people have fun and also take fucking ages to get out of the water.
Yeah, I just think everything before that, especially like all the underwater stuff as well, was like, I mean, it's okay, but I mean, yeah, there's a lot of characters. I think a lot of the good guy characters are good and interesting. Wu Jing, I think was great. The guy who, well, basically, I think all of Jason Statham's crew are all really good,
Yeah,
and I think they're
all just lovely blokes and women.
all
Just
lovely blokes, and they've all got lots of different skill sets and that, and seeing them team up in various different ways was interesting.
and he's got that
Um,
daughter that he's inherited.
yeah, of course. I just feel like with a film where you've got 3 megalodon sharks, including one who's like linked to them in some way because they've been training him or her, sorry, and the other one is like a massive alpha one. I just thought the sharks were kind of like mostly like forgotten about.
Yeah, it was more about those dinosaurs.
It was more about like dinosaurs and like
The big old
an
octopus
octopus,
that was
a
there.
big old octopus that kind of like in the trailers made it look like it was ever present, but for this one, it kind of just appears towards the end. Obviously, minor spoilers for Meg 2. Um, it was just a bit. I mean, that's the thing. I really like Ben Wheatley as a filmmaker, but obviously he's gone and done a bit of a cookie cutter monster movie. I mean, it felt like a sci-fi movie at times, but a sci-fi.
That's my point, Ben. I think for me, when it comes to Meg 2, has its good points, it has its flaws, but in many ways, as a as an appreciator of the arts, as renowned as we are, I think what I can really take in from this is the beautiful symmetry, if not the poetry of it, in the fact that the Asylum and the Sci Fi Channel have been lifting and taking inspiration from Hollywood blockbusters and disaster movies for years. And
Yeah.
now finally, the circle is complete. The snake has eaten its own tail.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah.
giant mecha snake has eaten its own tail here, where a Hollywood movie has basically taken the premise of an insane,
Yeah.
like asylum sci-fi movie, and has gone, "Shall we do this with like really well-known actors and a much bigger budget?"
And they've gone, yes, let's do it. I mean, it's fun enough, but I don't know. I feel like there were times in a film like this, there were proper times where I was like, I'm a bit not bored, but not quite having a great time. And I didn't want that. I wanted to just be shocked and awed by the ridiculousness of the movie. And I feel like, people double crossing other people. The actress who played Jill Valentine is in it as well, right?
Oh, you know what? You told me that going in, and then I didn't pick up who she was. Who was she? Was she the?
Sienna Gilroy, who
Yeah.
played like one of the baddies, one of the main baddies, a lady with a bob haircut and
Was she
sunglasses.
the bad CEO woman?
Yeah,
I never
she's played
picked that
Jill
up at the
Valentine.
time.
That is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tell
So
you
there we
what, you
go.
die a hero will live long enough to see yourself become a villain, eh?
Exactly. That's what happens. Obviously Jason Statham is good, and they also had an actor who was like Pedro Pascal if you ordered him from Wish, as a villain.
Pedro Pascal, but evil.
Pedro Pascal, but evil. I think might not be worth a cinema trip. I don't know what you think, but maybe wait for
Yeah,
it to come out on streaming.
like it's a nice summertime bit of fun, but you won't
Yeah. Do
die in
you
a
know what I
ditch
kind
over
of
the
wanted?
Lycans.
And again, I'm not minor spoilers. I wanted there to be a Meg who was like on their side. Because can
Good
you
Meg.
imagine, good Meg, can you imagine like Jason Statham literally riding on the back of a Meg into battle against other Megs?
Yeah, I can.
I
And
mean,
you'll
it's
get
almost
that
it's
out
almost
the
as
Meg
ridiculous
3,
as
the final showdown.
that because he takes on Megs with a jet ski and like some harpoons that explode. Um, yeah, I just thought this would be a great level in a game, final battle.
Yeah,
Um,
thinking the video game, aren't you?
and then obviously, as I mentioned, not horror, but I guess horror adjacent because it deals with the death of thousands and thousands of people. The real life death as well. But I did go and see Oppenheimer. Have you seen Oppenheimer yet?
Not seen Oppenheimer yet.
No. Obviously, a very different experience to Barbie. I
The real
think
life horrors of nuclear war.
I think it kind of is mad to see Cillian Murphy in a role like this, and you think about everything he's gone through and everything he's been in, and the fact that like 28 days later was like he's unrecognizable now. As I mean, sure, it's him. You're like, that's him. That's the same guy. But in terms of like how like his presence on screen is insane. Um, but yeah, it was pretty harrowing. It's one of those things, obviously, where you're just like, God, did was it? Did, what were the actual death toll based on things like that? And then you're like, looking on Wikipedia, reading about it, and just being like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
pretty nuts. And of course, it's difficult to be like, oh, I like Oppenheimer. He was a right laugh,
Yeah,
but because
what a buddy right lad.
you're like, regardless of like his moral standpoint, like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't find it as like with Christopher Nolan movies, especially when they're filmed in IMAX, you kind of expect to see these huge, like, landscape shots and thing. I don't know. Ooh, I wasn't getting the feeling. It's just one of those films that a familiar face will turn up every 5 to 6 minutes. Either someone who's been in one of his films before or someone who hasn't. And both times you're just like, hang on a minute, that can't be him, can it? Oh, it is. And then they're gone before it is that you could even say, no, hang on a minute. Oh, he's gone. See you later. Bye bye.
He went with
Um,
Miller. No, he's off.
no, Wentworth Miller, unfortunately, but that would have been good.
It would have crossed
What was
over
that?
with both Underworld
Anyone
and
from
Resident
Resident
Evil.
Evil movies? I'm just looking. Anyone from Resident Evil movies? No, no. But yeah. So now I've done the Barbie Oppenheimer combo in
Double.
the
I've only done
order
half of it. I've only done Barbie.
it was meant to be done. I think so. I think I'm caught up cinema wise. I do want to watch Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Mutant Mayhem is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Um. So I'm gonna try and go and see that this week. Anything else on the list for you?
Another couple from me. I watched 2007's Murder Party, where a quite a
Oh,
lonely
okay.
and socially awkward character gets invited to a murder party on
Do you want to
Halloween,
come to a murder party?
and it's
Absolutely not.
and he turns up, and it's a bunch of artists that are planning to do a murder as part of an artistic statement. It's low budget. It's fun. It's weird. It's a good laugh. I watched 2019's Color Out of Space.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah, nice. I think we
you
did that
guys
on the
have,
podcast.
yeah, he did an episode of it. I wasn't
Yeah.
on that one. Richard Stanley movie, of course, based on an H.P. Lovecraft original. I mean, it's
Two people
incredible,
have been accused of, well, not just
incredibly,
accused.
incredibly trippy visuals. And I found it incredibly bleak to watch. Just about a family
Yeah.
having an awful time and slowly going mad and getting turned into a big old pile of mush.
Yeah. I mean, there's some like body horror stuff which is pretty effective, I think, still
Yeah,
in that
it was
film.
still effective. And then I watched Escape from Tomorrow, 2013's like guerrilla filmed movie at Disney parks, about a man having
Oh, yeah.
hallucinations, having a psychological breakdown
Oh,
in Disney
yeah.
World.
I don't know if I honestly don't know if I've seen that.
It's
I do know what you mean.
very, very odd, very strange, quite uncomfortable at some points as this guy like gets obsessed with and like follows like some young girls around the park and slowly but surely becomes like more inappropriately fixated with these
Oh, wow.
people, and then it takes a real hard turn into full surrealism towards the end.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
recommend
I
watching it.
recognize the poster. Yeah.
I think your mileage may vary on how much you like your
How did they film
surrealism. I
that?
think if you're a like literally, I read some of the making of it. It was fascinating. Some stuff is clearly green screened, but a lot of it they just filmed with like handycams or phones. So
Wow.
while they were in the Disney parks, it was very much like, oh, this is just a tourist taking video.
Yeah.
And then he traveled and worked and lived in South Korea while he filmed it, really to keep it out of the public eye. And then
Yeah.
when it played at Sundance, they didn't announce what it was until it was there because they wanted to
Wow.
get it shown.
How
Um,
does Disney feel about this?
I think
Do you
they
know?
ignored it largely. Like
Nice.
I think when pushed, they acknowledged the film's existence, but I think almost maybe cynically, the marketing was based around the fact that they expected Disney to try and suppress the film,
Yeah.
and they didn't, which maybe took the wind out of it a little bit. Because I think if it was one of these that Disney like, no,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Of
stopping doing
course.
this, everyone is going to be checking it out. Really interesting filmmaking. If you're
Mm.
a David Lynch fan and you love your surrealism, you will get more out of it than if you like your horror straight down the line.
Mm.
But there's some wild stuff in there and really quite uncomfortable stuff sometimes. The horror is coming at you from
Mm.
a few different angles.
Nice. Yeah. I wouldn't mind checking that out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Was that it?
that's it for this week. Apart from, of course, loads of Fright Fest stuff, but I'm not going to talk about that apart from titles. We'll save that for the previews. And
Loads of
then
Flight Fest.
Underworld this week.
Underworld. Yeah, I was a bit like, I must have this on DVD. And my God, I searched high and low all over the place. I've got some like, well, my partner has like some old booklets full of like DVDs that we haven't got on the shelves. So I was like, it's gotta
Oh,
be in here somewhere.
old CD files. Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't find it. So I'm like, what have I done? I definitely must have owned it, but
Has
no.
it been Music Magpie a lifetime ago?
It might have been Music Magpie for 14p. So Underworld.
International listeners, Music Magpie was a online service which kind of existed in a boom just as digital distribution became
Yeah,
more of a norm, in which you
yeah.
could sell your physical media for pennies, only now for collectors to be paying many pounds to get it all back.
Yeah. That was. I still feel bad about selling some of the CDs I had where I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have sold that. Um, some Tool albums which had like massive pull out like artwork and stuff.
Your
Devastating.
current bout of retro shopping is probably buying all the PS2 games and Xbox original games that I gave
Yeah,
away.
I never did it with games. I'm glad I didn't.
I did, and in hindsight, I just got back from living in Korea, and it was like my
Yeah,
old bedroom at my parents' house was like an emperor's tomb. I got rid of hundreds of things, and it paid me to do a load of renovations in a house.
yeah, an
Sometimes I think,
Emperor's too.
oh yeah, the only things I didn't magpie just for bulk was the Nintendo stuff because that's the few things that become more
Yeah,
expensive over time rather than being worth nothing. But
most
there's
definitely. Yeah.
few things like Haunting Ground on PS2 where I'm like kicking myself. Like,
Oh
and
yeah,
I didn't magpie those. I did eBay them, and I got fine money for them. But I was like, ugh, if I'd had them
yeah.
now, they'd be worth
What
stupid money. Don't
happens?
think about it. Don't think about it.
Just don't think about it. Yeah. But Underworld probably not. So, Underworld, which is a 2003 action horror film directed by Len Wiseman. In my head, I'm thinking, isn't that someone who used to be one of the judges on Strictly Come Dance? That's the first thing I thought. Written by Danny McBride. No, not that Danny McBride, even though he is now a screenwriter. So that's probably a little bit confusing. Based on a story by Kevin Grevioux. Hang on a minute. Kevin Grevioux. I'm pretty sure Kevin Grevioux is the big deep voiced. Yes. Based on a story by the actor who played Ray's in this movie. He came
There
up with a
you
story.
go.
He wrote the original screenplay. The film centers on the secret history of vampires and lycans. Is the first chronological installment in the Underworld franchise, and the plot revolves around Selene, played by Kate Beckinsale, a vampire death dealer hunting lycans. She finds herself attracted to a human who's bloody useless, called Michael Corvin, who is targeted by the lycans. This synopsis is pretty much just saying the story, so I can't do that. So yeah, there we go. In terms of, listen to this. 7.0 on IMDb. Excuse me?
A lot of people like us, I think, need to reflect on this. 7.0.
31% critic score, 79% audience score. Is it one of those films that's got like a huge fandom around it and
I bet it does. I think it inspires fandom, this
people write
thing.
fan fiction about it? Okay. 3.0 on Letterboxd. Choice reviews are Chris Richmond says, I'm not the first one to notice this, but Underworld does so very badly wish it were The Matrix. The soundtrack, the black latex, the many guns, the slow mo, the kung fu shootout synthesis, and he's only given it 1 star for that, which I think is probably a little bit mean.
Yeah, a little bit harsh, maybe.
A little bit harsh. Don says, has a movie ever been this trashy but lovingly crafted, thought out, and downright badass? Probably not. 5 stars. I think we're seeing two very extreme ends of the spectrum there. 5 stars, it is not. Caleb says, why care about the plot when Kate Beckinsale is right there being sexy and badass in every frame she's in? 3 stars. Okay,
Very
okay.
true.
And then AJ finally says, over the years, Resident Evil left Underworld in the dust, but goddamn do I still love this movie. New metal, millions of bullets, and an icy blue sheen over everything. Well, Michael Sheen as well. He's in it. Four
It is
stars.
icy blue in some bits. 4 stars.
Icy, icy blue. Um, yeah. So we already mentioned it at the top of the show. I think we were both fans of this 20 years ago. Yes, 20 years ago when it was first released.
Mhm.
However, now after watching it again, I think we're both rethinking our opinions on it. There are 5 movies in total in this franchise. I listed them all down as movies to watch this month to go alongside this review. I'm already feeling a little bit funny about that.
You're walking back on that a little bit.
I'm walking back on it a little bit, but I might do. I think I might do. I'll have to. I mean, I went through the whole Resident Evil franchise and I'd seen them before and I knew how much I disliked them. Um, However, this film, one thing I think is like it's 2 hours long. If it was 90 minutes, I can imagine having a bit more of a good time with it. 90 minutes, trim the fat a little bit. Um,
I reckon
rein it
go bold, Ben. 85.
85 minutes. Rein in the all of the mythology because it's like so complicated. It's almost like all we need to know is vampires and lycans don't like each other. They're fighting. That's it.
I saw that flashback of Michael Sheen going, no, while his girlfriend got turned to ashes like
I don't even know what was
10
going on
minutes of the
there.
movie several times.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't understand what was going on. Um, Vampires and werewolves. Oh, look, this vampire and this werewolf are working together. Ah, who gives a? And also, the vampires and werewolves need to be more distinguishable as to which ones are which, because as we mentioned before, they all got like they're all very pale. The white guys anyway, white guys and ladies. They're all very pale. They've got very icy blue eyes, fangs, and like very like long big coats. Both sides do. The vampires, you would say, look a bit more gothy,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
and not and if you're in their houses, nicer furniture, not nicer,
because
more
I was like,
expensive furniture.
Michael Sheen. I ain't looking at him thinking, oh, he's definitely gonna be. Is it because he's the ones that aren't clean shaven are Lycans as well?
Yeah, absolutely hairless vampires apart from the hair on their heads.
I've just remembered something, and I'm gonna tell you it in a minute. The word lycan and lycanthrope like was mentioned. I mean, mostly lycan was mentioned. I mean,
Because they've
if you had to take
evolved.
you had to take a shot every time someone said the word lichen in this. Vampire, for some reason, not so much. Lichen, oh my God, you'd be absolutely wasted, smushed,
Bladdered.
bladdered. So I used to be bang into werewolves for a little while, right? Bang into them. I think it
Yeah.
was, so it was kind of like from when I was a teenager. I made like a animation. There was a, I can't believe I'm telling you this.
Death
There
Dealers
was
versus Lycans.
there was an animation software called the Complete Animator, which was on like computers in my school, right? And somebody like 4 years above us made an animation that was like a rip-off of Resident Evil. It was called like Tyrant Mayhem. And I remember
Okay.
watching it, and everyone used to love it. Everyone used to go, "This is brilliant!" And it was gory and like animation, like it was very cartoony, but people's heads were getting ripped off. And I went, "I could do better than that. I could do better than that." And for some reason, I decided to make a Resident Evil rip-off called Werewolf Darkness, which is like the worst name of it for ever, right? So it was basically like like it was like an action. It was like watching a game. So it was like someone walk in, someone else, a werewolf will walk in and blow its head off. I did a very complicated jet ski sequence. It honestly took forever.
Oh, this
Honestly
sounds so
took
amazing.
forever. But listen to this. To my friend as well. And actually it might have been my friend Mike who did the the jet ski sequence, but he made one as well. And we were kind of like spurring each other on, like, oh, you could do better than this. And we wanted to be the next. So obviously everyone thought about these kids who were older than us. Oh, they made Tyrant Mayhem. It's amazing. We wanted to be this generation's whatever. Um and
Those kids 4 years above you, they're Lord and Miller now. They're
yeah,
making
exactly.
Lego movies.
Exactly. But one day, after spending countless hours making this, like it was obviously frame by frame, like this animation software, 2D animation software, frame by frame. The video probably lasted 15 minutes. Can you imagine how long that took? One day we went in and it was just gone off the servers. And
What the hell?
we were like, where's it gone? And the teacher was like, oh, we did a like a defrag on the main server or something like that. He was like, "Why? Because nothing for students should have been saved on there." And we were like, we saved on that drive so we could access it from whatever computer we were on." Gone, completely gone. And honestly, if I could get anything back in my life that was lost forever, I'd love to see it because I can imagine it'd be awful. However, I'd love to see it. And then this was my first foray into actual writing.
Yeah.
Not long after that, I wrote I don't was it obviously wasn't a book. I wrote some chapters of my Resident Evil ripoff werewolf thing where like a
Werewolf
crew of
Darkness.
no, I changed it because I was like, werewolf darkness sounds stupid. I'll call it Into the Darkness.
Oh,
And
I
there
tell
was
you what,
like
everyone, you heard it here first. When you're sitting there one day and you're getting ready for a new film, Michael Myers is finally going to space, like, and you'll see those credits from the makers of Werewolf Darkness, Boo Year's Eve. Now,
so I mean what I'm saying is that was all prior to Underworld. So I remember when Underworld came out, I felt very like, oh, they've done it. They've done it. This is what I want to do, and they've done it.
this is Werewolf
But it
Darkness.
wasn't. So the book was literally like not the Stars Bravo team and Stars Alpha team, but it was like some team goes into a and rather
The
rather than
moons.
a rather than a mansion, it was just like some factory or something. to investigate some murders, and then werewolves turned up. That was literally it. And yeah, because when you first start creating things when you're young, you just copy things you like, don't you? And I was banging to Resident Evil, and I was like, oh, Resident Evil, but with werewolves because I like werewolves. So when this film came out, it kind of took the wind out of my sails, where where I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake, they've already gone and
Uh,
done it.
yeah, it's the same, Ben. Growing up, like when I was just leaving secondary school and at uni, I used to work with one of my friends who's a great artist, and we did like a satirical like superhero thing. And we were going to
Yeah.
do it as like some comics, and he's a decent animator, so we put together some animation samples. Like
Oh
it
wow,
was things like
so
that. It's
good.
like basically dysfunctional superheroes that were like fucking things up, loads of like referential humor to the media and like general like comic tropes and everything like that. I might still do something with it one day. It's changed massively from what it was because
Yeah,
this
sweet.
is coming out at a time that I was dead into watching films like Underworld. But like then Hancock came out and I was like, fuck's sake, Will Smith.
Oh yeah. There's
Slap you at
always
the
something
Oscars,
though, isn't
mate.
there? There is honestly always something. And I think it's just because, yeah, the content is infinite. And sometimes it comes to a point where those two
Some
ideas that you put together that you think were unique, and suddenly there it is.
sometimes it's that, Ben, and sometimes I think that media companies have had my laptop bugged for years
Yeah.
and are just ripping off on my, oh,
That's
let's
more
go back to the
likely what
bloody
it
gold
is.
mine, shall I? Oh, and he'll never be able to prove it. Let's steal all of his wicked ideas and put them out.
Yeah. Oh
Same,
man.
like even the comics we've released that one that was, and obviously been in production for a long time, and it was that one in the world where no one could speak or make sound, and it was talking rather than making any sound.
Oh
And then
right, yeah.
just as literally the week we put it out, and then it was like, oh, Quiet Place came out the
What
week
place is
prior,
out now?
and I was like, and it's
Oh.
just, oh, I get it, a lot like a Quiet Place. Just one more of you says a Quiet Place. You're going to be fucking gone to a Quiet Place after I
Oh.
thump you into oblivion, mate.
Oh, it's so annoying, isn't it? It's so
It's the
annoying.
worst. Yeah, so basically Hollywood's out to get me. Has been stealing my ideas for 20 years plus. Um,
I'm surprised though. Are you surprised that Underworlds are not based on something that already exists, like some books or something? Because it feels very much of that world. And that there's so much, the fact it takes so much time trying to like establish this mythology and give us the backstory and give us the narration to try and make us understand the rules of this world. And the fact it isn't based on anything like that, I think it doesn't really need to,
yeah, I
does
feel
it?
like this is the original story by Kevin Grevioux, as you mentioned, Ray's himself. I feel like I found a kindred spirit in here. He's the one that had the idea, and he actually got it there, and then went,
Yeah.
Danny McBride, not that one. Can you turn
And they
this
went,
into a screenplay for
and
me?
they went, excuse me, when you tell us the idea, can you just not have such a ridiculously deep voice, please? Because I can't actually make out what you're saying.
Can you imagine if his real voice is like Frank Spencer High? That's just his
Well,
acting voice.
listen to this. Listen to this. I'm sorry to jump in there with any trivia, but there were no special effects used to deepen Kevin Grevioux' voice. His natural speaking voice is really that deep.
He's a hero, is Kevin. He is, for me, the thing that I remember about this movie 20 years on. I remember lines when he's having a chat with Michael Sheen and he's like,
Oh my
were you
god.
followed? And he's like, I don't know. So you don't think,
I don't
well,
know.
you don't know. I
Lucian, his
don't
name.
know.
The amount of times he says Lucian.
Lucian.
Lucian, are you okay? Lucian.
He's
Oh
great.
my
I can't
god.
do it, but it's
It's
so good.
unbelievable.
Basically,
It's
the guy has
fantastic.
like found him, carved a niche for himself in Hollywood, not only for his ideas about vampires and lycans, but having the deepest voice that you could ever commit to film. No
Deepest
one's going to
voice.
top that or bottom it.
No. But yeah, obviously, but the soundtrack, we've obviously discussed so many films on this podcast where the soundtrack is like early 2000s new metal, especially over the end credits. Like that is very, very important. Slow-mo, big long matrix coats. Um, I mean, this is the thing. It's fun. It does take itself very, very seriously. I think it just outstays its welcome, and I think it suffers from all of the mythology it tries to put forward in such a short space of time. Of course, I say short space of time, still 2 hours long. But of course, we've got prequels and that. But I think just save all that stuff for the prequels. Yeah, I don't know. Um, So yeah, in terms of cast, Kate Beckinsale, Selene, Scott Speedman as Michael Corvin, absolute useless bloke.
The kid that's for the competition.
Bill Nye's Victor, the scoffing second most powerful vampire of the elders. Yeah, because the other elders saved for the sequel, right?
Yeah.
If again, it feels very much like a film that goes, look, because it could have bombed. Look, this is the first of a franchise. We know that, and that's why we're putting all these ideas forward because we know we're gonna work them out later on. And again, I feel like films that suffer, and I feel like maybe the first Resident Evil didn't do it, but I think Resident Evil 2
Yeah.
did. Resident Evil 1 was a bit more like, okay,
Got
even though
amnesia, ain't got to explain anything.
yeah, even though you do get her in Raccoon City with the shotgun at the end, I think that could easily have ended and that would have been it. However, I
Yeah.
think with Resident Evil, when they were like, quick, put him into the Nemesis program, the guy who's like, wait, that's at the end. Actually, that's at the end of one as well. Okay,
that's
so
the
I
guy,
take
the
that
Max
back.
Payne looking guy is like,
Oh yeah, so I take that back. Resident Evil 1 was also guilty of that. Then now I realize, and he got Michael Sheen early in his career. I think early in his Hollywood career, I believe this may be one of the first films I saw him in as the leader of Lycans. Lucian. There's someone else called Craven, who's everyone's name is ridiculous.
Craven is the
vampire dude. Yeah,
vampire guy that's in charge. He's Mr. Patriarchy. He's
yeah.
like, oh, I
Mr.
hope I'd have you on my arm tonight. She's like, I hope you go fuck yourself tonight.
Yeah, he was well into her, wasn't he? And to be fair, like people seem to love Kate Beckinsale's Selene, but I think she's very one note. She doesn't make many. I don't feel many emotions coming off her at any point, even when things are going badly.
Because you're playing a vampire, isn't it? Like, and I think I saw that people praised. This is in the synopsis here. People praised her icy English composure.
Yeah, if you're gonna compose, are you English? I am English, actually. Well, I
You would have said
praise
it
you
like
for
that.
being
You'd be like,
English.
yes,
Indeed,
in an icy way.
indeed, I am English, of course. Um, so yeah, I was just surprised that this wasn't based on anything because it feels like when you watch like a young adult sort of a Hunger Games or anything of that ilk.
This was this generation's Hunger Games or Scorch Trials
Yeah,
or what's the City of Bone one? That
yeah,
like
something
Underworld
where
was our generation's City of Bone.
how often do you feel like when you start for me when I watch a film and there's exposition in a narration at the start that bothers me when there's I don't think we get it in this film but it reminds me of the kind of film where there's like a title crawl and there's like a couple of
Oh,
paragraphs you got to
we
read.
absolutely
We
do
get that.
because if we get into
We
the
do.
script, it begins with like the vampires and the Lycans at war for generations. And by the way, just a little bit of an
Why?
early drop here. The Lycans actually no longer under the sway of the moon. They can just transform whenever they want, so don't worry about it.
Oh yeah,
And then
do
we
they explain
finish.
why?
Nah,
Film, cuz plot,
they've
cuz
just got
plot.
used to it. And
So this
now
time
we end the beginning crawl with Kate Beckinsale being a Batman, like sitting on the edge
oh yeah.
of a like a
So let
rooftop.
me just, I want to mention, so the opening crawl, it says, oh, for generations, vampires and lycans and ancient species of werewolves have secretly waged war. How have they secretly waged war? Because the first scene, they have a shootout in the middle of like a subway
A
train.
train station, yeah.
How have they secretly waged war? I
Machine
don't
gunning
understand.
people, just wazzing big silver Beyblades into Razor's chest.
Yeah, I mean, so this opening sequence, they're obviously following the werewolves are following somebody who is Michael Corvin, and the vampires don't know why they know, but they decide to intervene. Huge shootout takes place. I couldn't work out who was a vampire, who was a. At one point, I was like, "Oh, this guy, he's one of them, isn't he?" And then Kate Beckinsale shot him. I was like, "Oh shit, maybe not."
Yeah, he was a thin werewolf.
Finman, and then yeah, and then so Selene leads a group of vampire assassins known as Death Dealers, and their job is essentially exterminate the Lycans. Well, if you haven't done it in hundreds of years, you ain't gonna do it now. Despite other vampires no longer perceiving them as a threat, it says here. But did you get that vibe?
I think it was the idea that the Lycans were on the way out because they assume incorrectly, spoilers for Underworld, that Lucian is dead. And
Yeah,
they're just a ragtag bunch of idiots that he dogs sniffing their own bums and not really doing very much.
Well, they do say that. They say that a lot. You just a pack of rabid dogs.
Yeah, they
Rabid
do.
dogs.
But the other enemy of this film is hubris. Just like, oh no, they're shit. They are. Um, but yeah, this fella, Scott Speedman, he's just catching the train, and all of a sudden, all these lads are after him in like a rapidly cut together action scene. Kate
He is
Beckinsale and the
all
other round,
right.
they shoot them all up.
Scott Speedman is always on his ass, incapacitated. He's always sopping wet. His hair is always like in his face, sopping wet. He ain't got a clue what's going on. He obviously does. He's human, so he doesn't know that there are vampires and werewolves.
He's
I
just trying to
mean,
catch a train. And he's at medical school. I bet he's like, oh, blooming hell, medical school's hard. What can make my life any harder? What's this?
load of bloody Lycans coming after you. I mean, the
Scrapping
Lycans,
over me.
yeah. And this is it's kind of strange because I think like Selene doesn't really seem to understand why they're after him, but she's like, I'm going to intervene anyway. Because she's like doing all her private investigation, finding out who he is. And I mean, I think this is a plot that's going to be difficult to get right in the nitty gritty of and be too detailed with because it does fly along at a pretty breakneck
Yeah.
pace, but
And of
not
all the
necessarily
films,
in a good way.
of all the films that I'm happy to go and talk about for more than the runtime of the movie, I know that this one's gonna warrant it because there's not so much to unpick from it. It's more literally, almost directly, the events that happen on screen, right?
Oh yeah, there's nothing to unpick at all. 100% not. I don't understand. Like it even suggests here that Kate Beckinsale has got a thing for Scott Speedman, and I just don't understand why.
Yeah, I think she eventually comes to them, but I think the synopsis here does imply that like she immediately
A,
thinks
a human? You would love a human? You a vampire? That's never
it
happened.
is unspoken of.
How many times in this film, right, do they go, this thing that we're talking about has
Abomination.
never happened. It's an abomination. It's never happened in hundreds of years. And they go, actually, it's happened a few times. This happened once. That happened another time. Oh,
Happened to someone you know. Why do you forget about that?
it
Silly man.
establishes the rules of the universe and very, very quickly shows you the opposite, like straight away.
Yeah.
Some of the weapons are kind of cool. So you've obviously got the vampires with bullets that have got like silver in them, and a little bit later they have silver nitrate. So rather than the Lycans being able to pop out the silver, it gets straight into their bloodstream.
Well,
And the like
this is what
what
we
the
get, right?
Lycans
So
got?
in the opening scene, some werewolves get shot with silver bullets, and we see back at their base because we chop between action scene and then both of them going to their bases. So the werewolves are getting like the Beyblades and the silver bullets yanked out of them, and once they get shot with the silver bullets, they're smoking and they have to get them out. But the
Yeah,
vampire that gets killed, I guess his point of being in it was so he could be killed in the opening one, so then they could find the bullets and the gun that they take from someone and show that they have sunshine bullets.
they got sunshine bullets. Yeah, so a little
They've
UV
got
light.
they're full of they've injected them with like glow stick contents. They're lovely fluorescent glowing bullets.
This is also another thing, right, that bothers me. I feel like in films like this, they're very quick to say, "Listen, vampires, immortal, immortal. They live forever. Werewolves, pretty much immortal as well. Live forever. Well, we got a gun that can kill them right here. What? So they're just as susceptible to death as every other being
They have to be
on planet
special
Earth. Then,
bullets though, be fair.
but there's still they still exist. Like the amount of times we're supposed to be, oh, Lucian, he's done for. He's absolutely done for. He's been shot by the silver nitrate bullet. He's done for.
Oh, but he's all right,
Actually, he's all
actually.
right.
Yeah.
He's all right now. What? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot
So
of that.
so this happens. They find out the sunshine bullets, and they all know. We meet Craven, who introduces the true villain of the peace patriarchy with his. Even though Selene is like a warrior who goes out and fighting, and he is just. It
Yeah.
appears that Lucian's job is pouncing about in that big house,
He's
right?
just ponce. That big house looked a lot, like the interior of it looked a lot like Castle Dimitrescu inside,
Yeah,
almost one angle, like with the um stairwell going up or whatever it is. It looked so much like it. So that was pretty
yeah.
cool. I thought
He's
because I thought,
just
oh, I wonder if they've taken.
he's just
Yeah,
milling about in that house, planning balls and getting that woman who desperately wants to shag him to pick out dresses for Celine to wear.
you
Tell
want
her
to
to
wear
wear
this
this, will
dress?
you?
Do you want to wear this dress? Well, I always wear this like leather catsuit. Always. I'm never not in it. And you want me
Yeah.
to wear a dress from H&M?
Yeah. Go on, I got this. Like it's in
You
the
can't
sale
you
modern
can't send
style.
it back. You can't send it back, unfortunately. I'll do what I want. So there's
I
that. Yeah.
put. I was so confident you'd like it. I've snipped the tags out. Sorry, sorry.
God. Oh, screw it. Give it to charity. Um, yes, obviously he is into Selene. He kind of wants her to be his bride, I guess. But then there's another lady who likes him, and she'll do anything to get on side with him,
Yeah,
even screw up the relationship between him and Selene. I say screw it up, but there's literally nothing between them.
even by letting a man escape. Yeah,
Yeah. Um. So yeah, she's like privately investigating Michael. Works out like where he works.
yeah. She sees like a video on the CCTV because another vampire power is access to CCTV footage,
Oh
and
yeah,
um,
that's one of the main ones.
turn to mist, turn to bats, hypnosis, CCTV access.
There's none of
Um,
that. Those there. There's literally no like actual vampire
no,
interest in vampire powers.
just blue eyes, hissing, machine guns, and hacking.
Yeah.
So she finds out this guy and she wants to go and investigate him. And then we have a little scene with Scott Speedman meeting his friend and colleague at the hospital, Wentworth Miller. So, are you all right? Oh, but ever such a hard day. Actually, someone tried to really shoot us to death at
It's so weird when you see
the
Wentworth Miller
subway.
like with hair, isn't it?
Yeah, and his little glasses.
And there's little glasses on.
I would
Wentworth
love
Miller.
a little cut scene of him like um penciling out that tattoo on his skin. She's trying to get his brother out of prison.
Yeah. So obviously there's a few more attempts by Lycans to like get at Michael in there, like when they're pretty useless, like to be fair, considering this is just a feller.
Yeah,
Consider this is
and
just
then it takes the leader of the Lycans, Lucian, in the scene just after he has that little chat at the hospital to turn up, basically just pop out of the lift at his apartment and go, "Oh, good morning," and then bite him immediately. It's like,
yeah.
blooming hell.
Blooming hell, that's a bit much. It's not fair, is it? Um, yeah. So obviously those Lucians are after. Why does he bite him?
Solutions.
The Lucians.
I
Yeah,
think
it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously Lucian was presumed dead, but then only one person apparently witnessed his supposed death. But that was ages ago. So what's he been doing all this
hundreds
time?
of years ago,
What
Craven,
are you doing all
funnily
this
enough,
time?
it's been
There's
ironed
so
out.
much.
Think of this
There's
plan.
so much that happens over the course of this movie, which I'm assuming is 4 or 5 days. Yeah.
Yeah,
So what? So he's hundreds of years. He's just been chilling,
he's blown
watching,
it in 5 days.
watching the Lycans become a group of they're fighting between turn into werewolves and fight. Why can they transform in a day? I don't actually know. Do we know?
They just
Just
kind
cause
of, they
just
just
cause
practice.
just a little bit of practice. There's also a weird bit where they're all trying to get at Michael and Selena's like almost defending him. She goes to his house and the Lycans like running on the walls. And I was looking at it going, that's slower than running on the ground.
They're running on the
They're
walls, but what they don't account for when they're running towards her on the wall is that she is gonna Anakin Skywalker shoot around herself like a circle, uses gun instead of a lightsaber, but basically cut a hole in the floor of this apartment. Probably old ladies in their rent controlled apartments, fucking blasted to ribbons by a machine gunning all over
There's a
the
little old
place.
lady trying to get in her flat underneath, and she just gets torn to
Literally
pieces.
torn to pieces with silver bullets.
But
Because
are
the
we
thing
meant?
that you need to appreciate is that silver bullets equally deadly to humans.
Can you imagine as well that the person who made those lovely silver nitrate bullets was like, each one of these bullets takes me probably about an hour to put together, right? And I've made loads, so I've put a lot of time and effort into this. Be careful. Make sure you hit a vampire. Make sure you hit a werewolf with it.
That
And,
uses to
then
blast
Celine's
through the
just
floor.
fire it. Like, this takes about 10 seconds, and these vampires are in the same corridor as her. So how they have not got to her before she
I
blanked.
feel like
And
she could have
also,
taken the stairs.
you just jump. If you were a werewolf, you just jump down the hole after her. But for some
So yeah,
reason, they're like,
thanks for
"Oh,
making that.
what?" Um, yeah. So that obviously happens. That was when Lucian bites Michael. Now let
And
me
he
try
does
and
still try and
understand.
take him at that point. I think he does it as
Yeah.
like an insurance policy that if he doesn't capture him now, then Michael will be a werewolf at some point, and he'll have to come and
Oh
find
wait,
them.
he gets his blood.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. He wants to use it for a
Yeah.
test.
So
It fits two purposes.
there is a Lycan doctor, professor, who's like testing slash torturing some people, and he's crossing names off of the list,
All the
trying
Corvins he can find. Are you
all the
Michael Corvin?
Corvins. Are you Michael Corvin? I'm actually not. I'm actually not. And he's crossing them off, and he's clearly trying to make a Lycan vampire hybrid.
Because he's
Surprised I
been
got round
testing.
to it before this.
But he's been testing this stuff
And
because
what's the reason for it? So Michael is like a relation or descendant of
let me
somebody.
let me rewind it for you, Ben, with some of the exposition of the film. So
Jesus,
someone talks at some point. In
it's not
fact,
easy to follow.
when we're talking to Victor a bit later on, they recount this legend later, but for the purposes of the listeners and you, I'll do this right now. So there was once this legend that there was this fella, right? And he had three offspring. One was bitten by a bat, and I assume became a vampire. One was bitten by a wolf, and I assume became a werewolf or lycan. And one
Jesus.
of them was doomed to walk the path of the mortal. And
Yeah.
whereas vampires have been immortal for ages, that line of the family are all related. Come on, why are you fighting? They're all related. And that line of the family carried on. So then the Lycans are looking for the descendant from the mortal side of the family because they are led to believe that they have the secret to unifying the bloodlines to make a nightcrawler.
For what? What for?
He's in the
To
second one quite a bit. I need to watch it.
So is he
But
supposed to be like a sort of super weapon that allies himself? Because this is a weird thing, right? It's not clear who we're supposed to root for. I think on the surface, we're supposed to think that the werewolves are bad guys, vampires are good guys. But as things play out, it's like, well, no, they're not.
it's a complex movie, Ben. This is why it's 2 hours long. So uh, yeah, so Selene has done that. And this is, I guess, the whole Michael Corvin and the Corvin family thing, and the werewolves experimenting on everyone with this family name until they found the right one, is got a lot of the Terminator about it, because those werewolves have been to go around going, "You're
Mm,
Corvin, yes, captured." Um, but we have another bit here when
captured.
Selene has rescued Michael Corvin from the from Lucian,
Stop
they have a
saying it.
Terminator scene because her and Michael Corvin are in the are in the thing, and Lucian has got like a T1000 blade arm,
Oh
but it's
yeah,
spring loaded.
and he sprints after the car like a T1000.
He comes out of a lift,
Yeah,
gets him, and then when they're escaping, sprints after the car, starts stabbing through the roof, and then the driver of the car braking makes him tumble off, and they get a chance to run him over.
he stabs Celine like in the shoulder, right?
Yeah, and
Um,
Michael Corvin at this point turns around. He's one of those characters you always have to use their full name. Michael Corvin turns around and goes, "Here, do you want to let me out?" She goes, "No, look, just don't. All right." Um, and he says, "Well, this is actually for your own good." He well actually says, and says, "Well, you've lost a load of blood. Like, pull over before you pass out and kill us both." And unfortunately, him saying that like triggers the curse, because she goes from being sharp and fine to, as soon as she, "Oh, fuck off, mate, I'm not going to pass out because I'm a vampire," and then immediately like keels over and
yeah,
crashes the car into like the Hudson River or something.
awful. Well, I say awful, it's very
But
unfortunate
she's all
for.
right because they get better. They get out, and she has healed, and she tells him like, "Come over here." And the next thing you know is he wakes up in the vampire
So
house.
is this where this is where we're supposed to think, because she even says, "Oh, he saved my life." So we're supposed to think, okay, now maybe she's having a little bit of feelings. Just all you got to do is save her life, and she'll
Did he
be.
save her life by saying, "Pull over because you're going to
Yeah,
crash in a minute"?
she does say that though, right?
Very romantic.
She does say that.
Um,
Incredibly romantic. Yes,
she's got him at
indeed.
the house, but the vampire lady that fancies Craven, she pops in to have a quick peek at Michael Corvin and sees he's got a bite on him, hisses at him from the ceiling.
Hisses at him, jumps on the ceiling, and even then, Michael Corbin's like, "Bloody hell!" He's not thinking, "What's going on here? What is going on?" Um, So yeah, and then this is the thing. He's never in one place for more than like 5 minutes. He's always getting chased or like running away from a place. He like jumps out the window, and then some dogs like chase him.
He gets when he was climbing over that gate, I was worried he was going to get Alan Partridge.
Selene, I pierced my foot on a spike. I can imagine she. I can imagine she'd be absolutely. She'd be like, "Oh, you idiot."
Embarrassed.
Embarrassed. And it was a bit like Mr. Burns in The Simpsons. Release the hound, release the
Yeah,
hounds.
yeah, yeah. It is like a big Mr. Burns house that the vampires all live in. But they've got stuff going on. One of the elders is due to come for a visit, so they're putting on a spread.
Hmm. It's all
The
mad, isn't
the
it? Really?
the,
Yeah,
the advance party of the elder that's visiting comes on their own 2 days before. They fly in from somewhere and they
yeah.
do a lovely speech
Oh
just for a little
yeah.
bit of exposition. Like, in 2 days, when the woman one arrives, then we'll have a lovely time. It'll be time to wake up Marcus and
Yeah. So there's like there's like elders, and then two are asleep and one is awake. So Marcus is the next one they're gonna wake up,
yeah,
and it's someone else going to sleep. Amelia.
Amelia.
Amelia going to sleep. She can have a big sleep, and obviously we still got what's his name? Still a yeah.
Victor is
There's
having a Victor's
I'm
not
just
due for like 100 years or so yet.
I'm just looking. There's a character in Underworld Evolution, which is the second one, called Marcus Corvinius, which I'm
Yeah,
assuming
he's
is
that
supposed to
one.
be like
He's
it's
Marcus.
supposed
He's
to.
the guy that rocks up at the end of the last
So
this
why
one,
is there
right?
someone called Michael Corvin then? Is he related? Is that right?
Yeah, they're all related. They're brothers, aren't they?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So there's a
Um,
Marcus that was the bat. Then there's, I guess,
yeah,
is Lucian the original vampire, the original werewolf? Who knows? Maybe we don't get to that. But then Michael Corvin is the main one.
I can't believe that Kate Beckinsale is in all five of the movies. I don't know why. For some reason in
She's
my
not
head,
in three. It's Rona Mitra instead. Original
is
Tomb
it
Raider model Rona Mitra is
Rona
in the third
Mitra
one.
as in? Oh, okay. Rona Mitra. Oh, as Sonia. So it's a past one.
Yeah, it's
It's
the
it's
that's the beginnings of the warband. So when you're going through this, this will be crucial information for you.
yeah, yeah.
Actually, maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe Kate Beckinsale
No,
is in
no.
it towards the end. Is she in it? Is she in number three?
I mean, I'm not seeing her on the list here.
There you go
Cameo
then.
role.
Yeah,
Cameo
so
role.
maybe
There's
she's in
also
it
a
at the
character.
end.
Yeah, she's billed below Big Lycan, played by Brian Steele.
Right below Big Lycan.
Yeah,
Jeez.
and obviously Awakening, and then Blood Wars. Isn't there one where she's a bit blonde?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure there's one where she's a bit blonde, and I remember thinking, oh yeah,
Is it a
I
Henry
can imagine
Cavill situation? She's had her hair
because
dyed blonde for another role, but I can't change it.
I can't change it. I was like, where's she gone to get her hair done? Selene the vampire. Do you reckon they've got like vampire hairdressers knocking about?
I think it just depends on the country. In this country, hairdresser, that'll close at 5. You maybe get one late night a week if you're lucky.
Maybe you get like
Other
someone
countries, you get a night hairdresser. Lived
a
in Korea,
mobile
mate.
hairdresser.
Used to get my haircut at 11 p.m. Standard.
What you did?
Yeah. Place
Yeah,
called place called Italy Hair. It was above the one of the shops I used to go to. Used to go in there,
Italy hair.
go in there of an evening, give you a cocktail while you were waiting, give you a haircut.
This sounds amazing. It's
Tell you what, a normalized
Italian
nighttime
haircut as well.
haircut's well a lovely time.
Um, Italian haircuts as well only, right?
No, very much from the haircut I had while I lived over there. Haircuts that I didn't live in a town that had a big community of foreigners. So
Wait, so where were you
mostly
living when you got this done?
Korea.
Oh, it was Korea. Oh,
Yeah. So
okay,
yeah,
okay.
like I very much had the haircut that they were used to giving to the Korean gentlemen that would come in
Okay.
there.
I love it.
Basically,
Just
just be like, cut some of my hair off, please.
cut some of my hair off, and I go, yeah, okay. I'll do it in the Italian fashion, in Italy hair. Uh, okay. So so around about this time, I think Selene starts to suspect Craven as being a bit of a wrong'un because they think they work out that Lucian's alive, and then Craven was like, "You're the only one who witnessed Lucian's supposed death,
So yeah, so
and
don't
he's alive."
yeah, so I should bloody know then, shouldn't I? Only one who witnessed it. Thanks. No further questions. Gotta go.
Yeah, don't stitch me up.
And
And of
yeah,
course,
so
but now she hatches a plan where she's like, "I'm gonna wake up. Basically, I'm gonna be a massive grass. I think you're doing something wrong. I'm gonna wake up Victor, played by Bill Nighy, Mr. Scoffy Man himself. And what does she do? Like she can sort of present her memories to
Yeah,
him in some
so
way.
another bit of lore comes at us pretty soon in that the elders, no one explains why they go to sleep, but just I guess they're just sick of it. So no one
Absolutely
explains
knackered.
why they ever sleep. Maybe they just don't get on very well with each other, but respect each other. So
Yeah.
Amelia, Marcus, and Victor, they take turns to be awake and rule for 100 years or so. Now, um, only elders get to wake things up because apparently they have a special power that allows you to organize your thoughts. Basically, they're really good at doing like a previously on. So what they should do is if they wake them up with their blood, then
Yeah.
they can think about it really hard. And from drinking their blood, they're like, oh, this is me caught up on what's
Yeah, I
happened
see.
over the last 100 years. But Selene can't do that. And she just is able to, she like fogs up the mirror like Hob, writes Victor on it. So there's that message. And
Imagine
then
being caught
goes,
like who?
oh, I'm waking like Pob. She like blows over the mirror, writes Victor on it, and then says, "Oh, when you see this in the recap, when you're waking up, I reckon Craven's been mugging you off, so I've had to wake you up early.
Can you imagine
Sorry."
getting 100 years of news like into your head, like after being asleep for 100 years? It'd be absolutely baffling. Baffling. Can you imagine like
Uh,
100 years, 100 years have passed, and you're trying to explain VR, OnlyFans, and McDonald's to to someone who's been asleep all this time? They'd be
but
like, "Excuse me."
100 years though, like you only like you'd be
That's
like,
the last
oh
5 years.
yeah, be like, oh, that'd be just like, oh, well, there's like World War I that's not long, that's been going on,
Oh
and then
yeah.
there's all that other stuff. Imagine doing 1923 to now.
Right. I get serious FOMO as well, right? Like I really do. Oh, can you just imagine it? All the games and films and music you would have missed.
But
Waking
if
up
you,
completely out of date with everything. Waking up
if
going, oh, what's that? What's that hit song that everyone's dancing to these days?
that's why only the elders wake each other up because you get that. Because can you? Speaking of FOMO, Ben, if you were one of the vampire elders, what if it was your turn to go to sleep? Like I don't know, for example, between Infinity War and Endgame.
Oh
Oh,
God, yeah, absolutely
so
not.
I might hang on another 6 months if I'm honest.
Like, yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of bad news constantly, but just those little shreds of
A
good news hold on to me. Oh,
a little bit of pop culture enjoyment.
yeah,
They would have
I'd
done
wake.
that though if they'd been waking up one of the vampire elders now. They'd have got as part of their recap. They'd have got the connectivity of the MCU and really soon.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Imagine
that's a
Victor
lot.
waking up and saying, "Hang on, um, looking at the list here, it appears they made a series of the Inhumans, but that wasn't in your recap. Oh, I didn't watch it. The hell, you're leaving me in the lurch here. I want all that information. Thanks.
Absolutely leaving me in the lurch.
Essentially, they
Um,
don't give everything.
so she wakes him up, obviously feeds him a bit of blood, he gets caught up. To be fair, in the grand scheme of things, I personally don't feel like there's a big enough reason for him to wait her to wake him up, especially considering Marcus was going to be woken up like very, very soon.
But she prefers Victor, though, doesn't she?
Is that the reason?
Yeah, because he's like her vampire dad.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, of course,
It's
that's
him
right.
that
Who
turned her into a vampire.
and it's that
Um,
who plays Marcus? Someone called Tony Curran. I do
big
recognize him.
big CGI Batman is who he is.
Oh, okay.
Um, so in this one, so Victor is woken up, and as we've said before, he does some scoffing because he's all
Yeah,
he's all skeletal and he's been slurped out like a Capri Sun. He hadn't had no blood for ages, so
yeah.
it
But he's got
takes him a
he's
little
got like,
bit to
loads
get
of
better.
blood lines like in his back to try and
Yeah,
get him back to his best, right? But yeah, you'd be fuming. You'd be like, you've literally messed up the whole plan of this. Now Marcus is going to wake up, and we can't both be woken up at the same time. It's awkward. We hate each other. I don't know if they do,
yeah,
but
he's livid. So he like goes like scoffs at her not to
he is
talk when she's
livid.
trying to explain. She like goes, and Craven's like, no, don't go. And he tries to be all forceful at this point, and he's like, you're going to go in there, you're going to see him, and you're going to say exactly the things that I tell you to say. Otherwise, you're in big trouble. And she goes, oh, actually, I've written down all the things I was going to say. And she reached into a big black jacket, and he's like, "Oh, finally, a bit of sense." And she pulls out a middle finger, and is like, "Ah," and like goes in. And he's like, "Oh."
See you later.
And then so he does go in, and this is when he scoffs at her, and he like goes, "Right, fine, I'll do a proper investigation into his Craven mugging me off, and did he really not kill Lucian? But Lucian's definitely dead, actually. And now I've thought about it, and actually, you've got to be punished because you've been real
Yeah.
bad waking me up early.
You've got to be punished. Like
There will be no leniency."
it's proper. Like you'd be gutted, wouldn't you? You think I'll get Victor. I'll wake him up. I'll grass you all in. Victor's gonna be fuming, and then he takes your side.
I mean,
Takes their side.
vampires,
Sorry.
what they probably want is a better policy on no retaliations for reporting ethics problems in good faith. In a modern HR system, Ben, in a modern working environment, which I assume the vampires should aspire to, if they're all about high society, you really want to make sure there's no. If you raise a concern in good faith, is that any way to deal with it? You've woken me up out of sequence here. You imagine that you're at work and you think someone's insider trading, but he cooking the old books. You think someone's cooking the books. You go to the CEO and say, "I need to take this right." The CEO emails you back and says, "You were supposed to take this to your line manager first, so I'm afraid I'm going to have you killed."
And you go, fair enough.
You'd be livid, wouldn't you?
You'd be fuming. So obviously the history. So Victor saved Selene. So her family were like killed by Lycans.
Yeah.
Victor saved Selene. Obviously turned her into a vampire. And then so he's basically her dad now. Where vampire dad.
That's what we want. That's what they want us to think. Anyway, we'll come back to that.
Yeah. So and that is basically why she's got like a vengeful campaign against the Lycans. And then Michael, who's having all these hallucinations about Lycan shit.
Yeah, he's watching Lucian
He's
just
watching
shouting
Lucian's
no.
memories. So no, and somebody burning. And around about this time, he's always tied up. Michael, he's tied up at some point. I think because Selene thinks he's gonna turn into like a werewolf when the full moon rises, even though they can turn at any point. So it doesn't really make sense.
I think
Maybe
first time,
okay, still pretty nuts.
Unless you've taken some plot medicine.
Some plot medicine, yeah. And this is around about the time. So obviously Selene's trying to get Victor on her side, and she manages to find that Lycan scientist we mentioned before called Singe. That's his name, apparently. And basically he does a classic. You tell him what you told me, and he explains.
Oh yeah, because she's escaped.
Everything.
She's going to be executed, but the woman who wants to have sex with Craven basically says, "Look, here's your jacket and your machine guns. Fuck off. This is my benefit."
That's all she needed to escape. Jacket and machine guns. Before that, she couldn't have done it. But yeah.
But yeah, she captures Singe and she takes him back and says, "Tell him what you told me." And Lucian's plan is being hatched at this point because he's had his security team go and meet Amelia's train, and they've all been vampire machine gunned to death as well.
Well, no, all the Lycans just attack, don't they?
Oh, I think he set him up to do it, right? He was like, "Oh, this will happen," and he set the Lycans there to absolutely murk them all.
Absolutely murk everybody, yeah.
So just when she gets Singed to grass on. You don't believe me, will you? Well, believe the words of one of your sworn enemies. And then Singe, the scientist, says, "Yeah."
Stop saying Singe.
He says, "Yeah, it is a big plot. Lucian's alive and well, and Craven's a big old traitor. Of
course. Grasses him up.
He does all the grassing up, and then Victor scoffs and goes, and like looks at where, right, Craven, you're in big trouble, and he turns around. Craven is like literally like a smoke outline of Craven is there, and he's disappeared, and he's poofed off.
Sprinted off. He's poofed off. So he's gone. And I think we get more backstory, more. I think Michael starts seeing other things. He sees that Lucian was in love with Victor's daughter, Sonia. Obviously, as you've already mentioned.
Rona Mitra herself.
Rona Mitra, yeah. And then Victor murdered her after he discovered their forbidden affair. And that's when we see Lucian like screaming, no. And then Lucian also says that Lycans were once slaves of vampires, and the war began when they rose up against them and fought for their freedom. I think if you're a vampire, not not saying slavery should be a thing anyway. Of course
If
not.
anyone was into it, it'd be them bloody vampires. They're wrong.
Vampires? Why would you keep why would you keep Lycans as slaves? They're terrifying. They're strong. Just keep humans weak, easy to manipulate.
Or also, you've got loads of inherited wealth. Just pay people a living wage, vampires, if
That's
you could.
True. That's true. So I'm
People
assuming
will be less. I think this is the same applied to the ruling class of today, Ben. If you just pay people properly, they'll be less inclined to stab you in the heart while you're asleep.
that's yeah. I totally agree with that. I'm assuming that film 3, Rise of the Lycans, is going to be about this. It's going to be
That's
about
going to be
the Lycans
forbidden
union,
love.
the Lycans unionizing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and saying, listen, get us out of here. We're sick of it.
Listen, no burning up my partner just because of our forbidden love. No
Burning up my
being
partner, but
slaves.
also like Victor's daughter as well. Like, I mean, come on. There's got to be at least 12 other things you do before going, I'm just going to murder them both. Or no, I'm
I'll
just going to
say a
murder one
rare
of them.
positive about Victor is that I guess at least he applies the rules fairly.
Well,
He's
yeah,
not there
maybe.
like saying, well, maybe I did have a party in lockdown, but actually, is it really illegal? That isn't what Victor did. Be like, no, sorry, slap the cuffs on to prisoner. Fuck this.
I fucked it, lads. I've absolutely fucked it.
I've set the rules and I've got to pay the consequences. Sorry. Chain us up to
Sorry.
this post when I get burned up by the sun, I guess.
Siege also explains why the Lycans want Michaels, who's like vampires and Lycans have a common ancestor. Michael's a direct descendant of them.
Peasant
He
fella.
is an heir to the legendary Corvinus bloodline. He carries a unique genetic strain that can allow him to become a vampire werewolf hybrid, which Singe predicts will lack the weaknesses of both species. Based on what?
He's mixed the
What
blood
we're going to
together
do,
in
we're
a
going to get
little
these two
dish, isn't
things
he?
together, and if you mix them together, the weaknesses of both will just be eradicated. Oh yeah, have you got any actual evidence of that, or
Yeah,
any
I've just done
findings?
some experiments. I guess it's how rosé was invented, though, right? Right?
I mean, isn't
Or
rosé just white wine, but just left some of the skins in it for a while, something like that?
I'm not
It's some, it is something
I'm
like
not
that.
not a
It is
sommelier.
not.
I couldn't tell you.
It's not red and white mixed together. It's not that.
Sometimes it's that.
No, it's not. Well,
When you're at a wedding, you've already drank a bottle of each, and then you think, oh,
okay, we'll let
you've
you.
made some rosé. Then there was a guy that wasn't really going to drink at a wedding we were at. We were having a lovely time, but we weren't big important guests at this wedding. It was just we were there to just enjoy ourselves. And there was a guy who was there with his pregnant wife who wasn't going to drink all that much. We played a game where it's like, oh no, I'm afraid you've accumulated a forfeit. That means you've got to have rosé, which we
Oh,
poured the red and white in there together. And then when he
amazing.
was
And
very
he was
sick later on, we
convinced.
felt quite bad.
Oh, he's sick. That's it. You got to do it
Just
right.
made him a bit poorly.
Can't muck about like that. So basically, yeah, Michael is the rosé wine of the vampire werewolf scenario.
Yeah, best of both worlds, the weaknesses of neither.
Victor kills Singe. How does he kill him? Just slaps his head off.
He twists his head off like a bird.
Yeah. And then basically says, right, death dealers, everybody get together, get all your lovely guns. And we'll go into the Lycans lair. And we're going to kill all the remaining Lycans, including Michael.
Yeah, because Michael's been captured, everybody, by the way. He went back to work.
He's never not been captured. He's always in someone else's custody.
So he's briefly not captured. Selene handcuffed him to a
not.
thing and said, right, take this werewolf medicine if the time comes. He escapes from that, goes into the office where Wentworth Miller everyone's
grasses him in as well.
Yeah. He was like, all right, take it easy. I know you've been having these hallucinations. Probably just working a bit hard. He goes, no, I've been captured by werewolves and vampires. He goes, all right. Am I police? Yeah.
Yeah, he's fucked.
Michael Corvin, he's mad actually. And then the two policemen that turn up happen to be werewolf policemen.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, man.
Can you send the police? Yeah, we got a couple of werewolf police on their way.
So the werewolf police, they have captured him. And I love the bit where they're driving him back where like Michael Corvin, the full moon is coming out and he is in the back of the werewolf police car, absolutely losing it, transforming into a werewolf. His nose is
This is
extending and his ribs are CGI breaking.
this is the equivalent of when you get in the back of a taxi, if you've had a skinful and you're very, very close to a chunder situation, very close. However, before you get into the car, you say, "I'm all right, mate. Yeah, yeah, just take me home." And then while you're in the back of the car, it feels like you're on the fucking Nemesis Alton Towers, where you're literally like,
Oh.
"Fucking hell,
My
slow
feeling of
down."
that is always, if you've been like, if you ever make the mistake of sitting in the front of a car when you're feeling sick, and it's like in Star Wars when they go into hyperspace and the stuff, the lights just come towards you.
Can
And
you
it's like,
slow down a minute? Can you slow down? Have you ever stopped a taxi so you could chunder like at the side of the
no,
road?
I've been on the way back from a house party many years, probably in the Underworld era, actually. I've been Michael Corvin. I've been to a house party which I've got my poor, long suffering mum to pick me up from and bring me back from.
Yeah.
And going around a roundabout near Tamworth
Oh,
Ventura Park Shopping Centre, I've been sick out of the window of a Rover
oh
200.
yeah. I mean, that's good. I've managed to have the wherewithal to stop a taxi so I could chunder, and he's waited for me, which is very nice. But then obviously says, "Don't be sick again in the car because I'll have
Oh,
you."
thanks. I would have thought I was considering it, but surely you should give you credit for not having. Well done, Ben.
Yeah,
I know you're someone who can know to stop.
yeah. I mean, that just that one time. I'm pretty sure I've not been sick in the back of a taxi. I've been with somebody who has been sick in the back of a taxi, and they've like tried to hide the fact that they have. They've just kind of gone, yeah, yeah. They've kind of just gone, been a bit sick, and you go like,
Let it fall out.
yeah, and you go like, "Oh
Just,
no!" And then
oh,
they go,
Ben, you stay in their eye line and make burping but no sick noises. Like,
"Oh,
pardon, pardon.
oh." I mean, of all these memories of drinking, doesn't make as a teetotal man, it doesn't make me feel like, oh God, I miss those times, because it was horrible, wasn't it? Like getting in a car and thinking, "Oh, I'll be home in 5 minutes," and then being like fighting for your life, literally fighting for
Yeah.
your life in the
Some of my
back.
worst experiences are almost when you get home and you felt all fine until you've got home and you try to get into bed. When you lie
Spinning.
back and close your eyes, so you have to put your leg out onto the floor.
To ground you. It was a combination of spinning, but also like your ears ringing.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And, like, and you can't sleep because you're just fucked. So you're just like holding on for dear life. It's horrible. Oh, it's horrible, isn't it?
Just want it to end.
But basically, this is what Michael's experiencing while he's turning into a
Yeah.
werewolf in the back of the car.
And
And
the werewolf policeman go, stop and giving him the injection. It was like, oh, but we're almost there.
we're nearly there, mate. Stop and giving the injection. What is the injection supposed to do? Just stop him turning or something like that.
Stop it. Like, yeah, it's an injection called the CGI budget. And we've done the bit inside his. We had like a little CGI bit inside his chest, seeing his ribs change to dog ribs, and then he's
Yeah.
transforming. But they do have to stop eventually, and this is why it's a 2 hour film.
This is another thing. I mean, talking about the werewolf effects, obviously, in a world where we've experienced an American werewolf in London and the Howling and various other dog soldiers, various other like werewolf effects, which are great. Obviously with dog soldiers, the transformation happened behind a table. That's fine. With this one, this is like if you imagine a CGI werewolf transformation that isn't Van Helsing, where like all his hair like kind of just that's kind of a mad one.
becomes a
This
silky head and shoulders
this is kind
werewolf.
of it. I feel like this is it. The sort of the face just elongating. And again, as we mentioned, the vampires always wait for the werewolves to transform. There's a bit where a werewolf Rays has a showdown with a guy with whips, I guess silver whips. Yeah. And he waits for so long for it to transform because they got to take their clothes off. Then they step forward and then they transform. And the vampire the old time's like going, "Get on with it."
Yeah, and he's just doing his whip practice. Yeah, so that's how they captured Michael Corvin, and he meets Lucian at this point and says, "Oh yeah, those are my memories actually that you're having." He explains that what it was. Oh yeah, the person there, that's me, and that was my love, Victor's own daughter.
That's me. What do I look like in those memories?
Same
What
as
do I
I do
look
today.
like? Same as I do today. Do I look the same? I've got the same haircut. Have I got any embarrassing No, you're fine. You're fine, mate.
So he's got that. And he goes, "Oh, actually, we'll be friends, you and I." But yeah, this is it. Craven turns up at the base first and goes, I told you I was a traitor and I've killed Amelia." And they go, "Oh, well, we're keeping secrets as well, mate. We're all got secrets and dirt on each other."
Yeah,
And
everyone's
then
got
Craven goes, "Well,
secrets.
guess what? What I'm going to do is shoot you with mercury silver nitrate bullets."
Yeah. Shoots him. He like collapses, and that's when Reyes comes along and goes, "Oh my God, Lucian, are you okay? Have you been shot with silver nitrate bullets?"
And he goes, I have, but basically, if I grimace enough, I'll probably be all right.
Yeah, that's it. So obviously the werewolves usually pop out the silver bullets, but this is like right in your blood, so you can't. So it's basically poisoning you. You're
It's like that.
dying.
What's like those Nurofen fast acting liquid painkillers, right? Like straight to the
Yeah,
source.
exactly. Yeah, just like that. Um, so this, yeah, obviously, they've turned on each other, and then I think who tells, and it's then when Selene finds Lucian, and Lucian says, "It was Victor who murdered your family, and he spared and mentored you because you reminded him of his daughter." Is that right?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm guessing his
totally
daughter was
normal.
killed hundreds of years ago in the olden days, and then Kate Beckinsale was transformed to a werewolf years later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's going to make sense within the 5 movies what we're going to get.
We'll get to it.
Um, yeah, and so Selene is full, and then so Selene bites. So Michael's like on his way out essentially, isn't he? Um,
Yeah, because what happens? Does he also get silver nitrate bulleted?
maybe, yeah. So she
But
bites him.
yeah, dying Lucian has just enough energy. He does get some
Nobody
more
has
energy
ever
later on.
survived a bite from a werewolf and a vampire. Nobody ever in hundreds of years. This time it's gonna
Yeah,
work.
Lucian leans forward and goes, "Bite him, will you? Just give him a bite." And she goes, "Well, that's me convinced." Have they had a snog at this point? Probably.
I'm not sure. But basically, what Michael turns into is Wes Borland from Limp Bizkit. With black, like he's got black like makeup all over his body, and he's got black black what are they called?
Completely
What are
black
they?
pupils.
Yeah,
Oh, irises. He's got black everything. Black
yeah.
sclera.
So basically, this is why this film is so early 2000s and new metal. It's because he looks like Wes Borland from Limp Bizkit. Um, Even so, he moves like him because Wes Borland always moved very with loads of extreme movements on stage. He could like teleport
Oh yeah, because
crazy.
he does Dragon Ball Z fighting now where he can like instantly
Yeah,
translocate behind because Victor's here now.
and Victor's
Um
hard. Victor's nails, right?
yeah. How does Craven eat shit? Does he get killed by oh, he gets stabbed by Lucian, who isn't quite dead,
Yeah,
uses his blade, his Terminator 2 hidden Assassin's
his
Creed blade
Assassin's
to
Creed
knife him.
blade. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So they like have a battle. It's kind of like Lucian. He kills some people. Um. And then he admits to Selene, "Yeah, I murdered your parents," and
Yeah,
and
it
and
was
sort
me
of
actually.
admits about killing his daughter as well.
Oh, and he admits
Um.
why he killed her because of the
Yeah.
abomination growing in her tummy. So they were going to have a
Yeah.
vampire like him. Bye bye.
But no, that didn't happen. He killed it. And then he says he made Selena immortal because he loves her. And then he has a fight with Michael, who's yeah, super strong, can
There's instant
teleport.
translocation behind him, but scratches him to pieces.
Yeah.
But does Michael still lose?
Yeah, but Michael still loses. So Victor, obviously, he's got a lot more because Michael, despite the fact that he's now a vampire werewolf hybrid, is useless. Now we have to understand this because this is something that comes up all the time when we talk about Homelander. Is that Homelander may be super strong, but he's not a trained fighter. So even though he's super strong, if he went up against someone like Omni Man or Superman, he'd get battered because they've got so much more experience
And
in the
soon
old
we'll be
fighting
able to.
escapes.
They're
And
both in
soon
the
we'll
new Mortal
actually be able
Kombat
to.
game.
Yes, of
Horror
course.
adjacent news, everybody. New
But
Mortal
that's
Kombat characters. Hooray.
exactly. So the fact that Michael is useless anyway, it don't matter that he's now half vampire, half werewolf. He's still useless, and that's why
Yeah.
Victor gets the upper
And I
hand on
guess
him.
he's only just been West Borland for a few minutes.
Exactly. It'd be like suddenly someone handing you a PlayStation controller and going, right, you're fully leveled up. You're the best version of this character. Now fight this mega boss. But you didn't know
Yeah,
what the controls were. You weren't used to it. You didn't
yeah,
know what R2
exactly.
and L2 meant. You didn't know what your
It'd be like
special moves were.
it'd be like me just hearing a ring on the doorbell tomorrow morning, nipping out to the driveway. Someone goes, "Right, Andy, is your Harrier jump jet? You're a pilot now.
Yeah. And you go, whoa,
You're
well, I
Top Gun
suppose
Maverick, mate. Get out there."
get out there, yeah. You got these
Um,
skills, but you don't know how to implement them.
so yeah, he doesn't know how to use his powers yet. So Victor is able to outfight him and throw him into a wall. He takes some scratches, he takes some injuries, but he gets
Yeah.
thrown into a wall and like knocked out. Um, so Selene, who'd been thrown against a wall later on, um,
Yeah.
gets up, gets the sword, and she does like it's a great like Kill Bill like samurai movie thing where they jump past each other. Bill Nye does one last go and then holds still, and then he gets a big. Tell
Yeah.
you what, Ben, another Resident Evil moment, like good old Colin Salmon himself. You think he's fine, and then
Yeah.
where he's been chopped with the laser grid, or in this case, the sword,
Classic.
the line comes across and his head drops in half because vampires, immortal, don't like a sunshine bullet, but can also have their head chopped in half with a sword.
Also have the head chopped off, yeah, which is totally understandable. Victor is done for. Selene and Michael flee the lair together. It says here now enemies of both vampires and lycans. Okay, so it's like going, oh, well, you'd never believe what's going to happen in the sequel. And then at the vampire's mansion, Marcus, who's now the only surviving vampire elder,
He's missed all this.
receives
He's
his.
asleep. He's
He's missed
asleep.
this. He's asleep, and it's Singe's blood that wakes him up.
Yeah.
Apparently,
So Singe's
he's been
werewolf.
slowly dribbling towards the sarcophagus this whole time.
Come on,
Come
just
on,
like,
just a
like
little bit
Popeye, like
closer.
craning for his spinach can. Just need a little snifter of that stuff. And so I wonder in Underworld 2, bearing in mind it's werewolf blood that's got him up, is it just blood
Yeah,
and his blood is blood and he's a vampire man? Or is he
yeah.
also a Westmoreland?
I mean, I don't really know, but we'll soon find out, I guess, when we watch the sequel or maybe all the sequels. Who knows? Um, apparently, well, I was about to give you some trivia there, but I suppose we should move on. If
No,
that's the end of the
give
film,
us some trivia. That's the end of the film. They're
yeah.
enemies, and don't worry, there's another 4 movies to see what gets up to them.
Said about
Gets up to the next.
Michael being bloody useless. Scott Speedman suffered a concussion when a set prop that was supposed to be a piece of the wall Victor had just thrown at him hit him in the head.
Well, no wonder he was so woozy.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. There's not that many other interesting facts, really. Apparently, Kate Beckinsale met her future husband, Len Wiseman, on
Oh,
this.
hang on, another
But
parallel.
at the time, she was in a long-term relationship with actor Michael Sheen, who played Lucian.
Oh,
Oh my God. I mean,
behind
this,
the so Len Wiseman, the director of this film,
yeah,
went on to marry the young action gun-toting starlet of this.
yeah.
I'm so sorry, Ben, that I felt I implied that you would love it because obviously you wouldn't step in front of that relationship either. Another
No.
person, just a
Michael,
director who has married the attractive star of his action
oh
film.
yeah, that's exactly it. He loves his wife. Uh, so Michael and Len have since become very close friends, have collaborated with each other on Rise of the Lycans. Michael and Kate remain very close and both are raising their daughter equally. Well, this is only on IMDb. We don't know what parental
So she
responsibilities
has
they
a so
they got a
not
kid.
just a long-term relationship, had a kid with Michael Sheen.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't know that. I did not know that. And I don't think it made me look at this film any other way, but yeah. Um, have you got any name game for me?
I have got some name game, but I will also point out I'm just looking through this synopsis and having looked if there's any more trivia on the Wikipedia. You know, you talked about how it's a wonder that it's not based on anything, like an existing IP.
Yeah.
Let me read to you a little section here called Legal Controversy.
Oh,
The film was
oh my
subject to a
God.
copyright infringement lawsuit by White Wolf Incorporated and Nancy A. Collins, claiming the setting was too similar to Vampire the Masquerade and
Oh.
Werewolf: The Apocalypse Games, both set in the world of darkness, and to the Sonia Blue vampire novels. White Wolf filed
Ah.
17 counts of copyright infringements and claimed over 80 points of unique similarity between White Wolf's gaming system and the film. One of the points being the vampires in the Underworld drink blood.
Ah. Come
White
on.
Wolf Incorporated also the script was very similar to a story entitled The Love Monsters 1994, which they published, written by Nancy A. Collins. In September 2003, a judge granted White Wolf an expedited hearing. The lawsuit ended in a confidential settlement.
Oh, okay. It's
I mean,
surprising though,
it's
isn't it?
very
Because
strange
surely,
though. The fact that vampires drink blood, like, surely you can't pull that. I think it's hard to say. We only saw one of those examples from the 80 points of unique similarity, but drinking blood feels like that's probably one that wouldn't stand up if you were saying that
yeah,
you exclusively had that on vampires. But I think sometimes these things settle out of court. But very difficult with these characters that are by concept in the public domain.
yeah, definitely, most definitely. Um, okay, name game.
I got a
Have you
couple
got?
for you. Have you got any today?
Yeah, I got a couple, but you might have chosen
Should we
one or
round
more of
robin
them.
that then? So
So Selene, a vampire warrior, is entrenched in a conflict between vampires and werewolves, and falls in love with a useless twat.
So, shall I begin then with this? Selene, a vampire death dealer, finds herself in between a war between an inept, talky hotel owner and the mishaps that happened around his business, and another beret wearing man who tries loads of various jobs and things always go awry.
Basil Fawlty and Frank Spencer, right?
Yeah, these are just two examples. I mean, it could be the Chuckle Brothers, it could be any number of these people. It could be Bodger and Badger. They're all involved. All these comedy characters. They're always trying to be in a big conflict with each other, but it always goes comically wrong.
Is it? It always goes comically wrong. Fun Plunder World. Fun. No.
Not plunder. It's always going wrong. Always some mishaps. Always messing it up. They are trying to do these
Oh,
plans. They always just go wrong. Lucian's
anything.
livid. He asked them to just buddy catch Michael Corvin, and they've roller skated down the hill, smashed like a big plate
You have
glass
to give me a
window.
clue because I'm struggling. I'm struggling.
This film, Blunderworld.
Oh, Blunder. Oh, yeah, that makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Blunder World. I was getting bogged down by thinking British comedy legends world. I say legends, but
Blunderworld.
loosely. Blunder World. Okay. So this film is God. Trying to think now. Selene, there's a there's a war happening between vampires and werewolves, but rather than just like having a fight, they just get involved in sort of like joke telling com- competition. A various type of joke as well, where the different possible meanings of a word or the fact of the words sound alike have different meanings.
Is it Punderworld?
It's Underworld, yeah. They're always pulling out the old puns for each other. Makes Lucian fuming.
So that's that one. Um,
Yeah.
in this next film, a vampire death dealer called Selene regales absolute piece of work Craven with the story, or how about on a previous night out, a friend of hers who is nicknamed for his propensity for vomiting all the time threw up in the back of a taxi.
It's Underworld.
Not World, though. She's telling the story about how he threw up yesterday.
Chunder Hurled.
Chunderhurled, correct.
Chunder Hurled. That's good. I like
That's the story she's telling.
that. Selene gets embroiled in a vampire werewolf situation, and what her latest target is the coffee shop owner of the I can't remember what it's called. The coffee shop owner of the famous coffee shop from Friends.
Oh, Gunter World.
Yeah. What's that? What's the coffee shop called?
The Central
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 Perk.
Park. Central
Yeah, that's
Park.
it. Yeah, Gunfer Ward. Would he be a vampire or a like? He'd be a vampire, wouldn't he? Because he got bleached blonde hair. That's a vampire thing.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it'd be a third thing. Like as a Gunter would be like
Fairy. Oh, right.
some sort of ghost.
Is this the plot to being human now on a
Yeah, a
beach?
ghost.
Okay. Anything
Here's
else?
another one. So a not sure, a let's say an urban area in the Tyne and Weir district becomes the capital of the entire planet and changes its name accordingly.
Oh God. A what in the Tyne and Weir district? Did you say?
An urban centre in the Tyne and Weir district, whose football
Is
team play in red and white stripes, a bit like Freddy Krueger's they are.
Okay. Sunderworld.
Sunderworld, it gets upgraded from Sunderland. Sorry, international
Sunderland
listeners.
to Sunderworld.
Sunderland becomes Sunderworld. Very good.
Very, very good. Okay. Selene. Oh, actually, this is the prequel, right? This is the prequel. The third film, the prequel. Go back in time. Vampires around, werewolves, but also there's this thing called Valak, which has always just existed, despite this being a prequel.
The Nunderworld.
The Underworld. That's correct.
Here's another one for you. Selene, embroiled in a conflict between vampires and werewolves, but sick of bloody killing each other. All they do now is steal each other's treasures.
That's Plunder World.
That's Plunderworld.
Yeah. Is that it?
I can do one more off
You
the
got
top
one
of
more.
the dome, which will be a test of your excellent 90s comic knowledge. I mean, if previous guest and friend of the show, John Locke, was on, he would get this one instantly. So
Okay.
pressure's on you, Ben.
Yeah.
Selene, a vampire death dealer, finds herself thrown into the Jack Kirby-esque world of stories used in Grant Morrison's Justice League of America stories, in which they visit a land on the edge of reality where godlike beings protect the known universe
God.
from outside threats. It's actually the name of this place in the comic. I'm not punning too hard.
Shit. Is it a DC comic, did you say?
Yeah, it's
It is a
Justice
DC.
League. Yeah.
Oh, it's Justice League as well. Oh, I let myself down big time. But to be fair, whenever we get to the end of the episode is when I feel like my brain is not working the best.
It's almost 11 o'clock at night, listeners. So Ben's pulling on fumes here.
I don't know.
It's Wonderworld.
Oh, it's Wonderworld. Oh, what spelt how?
I assume
Just
the
normally.
normal way. Yeah.
Ah, yeah. That's not been explored in
Not been
any
explored.
live
Not been
action.
explored in cinema, but you will find it in, I believe, one of the early volumes of Grant Morrison's Justice League of America run from the late 90s, The Rock of Ages. And what an excellent volume it is. If you could all go away for your homework and read that, you'll be in a much better place, I promise you.
I might have to do that. I might have to do that because I would have never got that. Okay.
The Rock of Ages story is what I think in making Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think he'd read a couple of pages of it, and that is a lot. It inspires a lot of stuff, but is not properly realized in what he tries to do in those films.
He read the first
good.
3 pages and he went, "That do, that bloody do." Okay, so now we've got to rate the movie. A to F. Pluses and minuses, of course, are available. Rate good or rate bad. I know we were talking about we were fans of this pretty much growing up. Not growing up, grown up, but in 20 years ago, in
It's
our
a different world.
youth,
The past is a foreign country.
the past is a foreign country indeed. And I mean, if you asked me before I watched this, I would have been like, hell yeah, I like Underworld. It's great. Good times. What's more to like? But after watching it again, I get the same sort of vibe. I do get the same sort of vibe from like Resident Evil, where it just feels like it's all style, no substance. And even the style is kind of aged
Yeah,
So now it's got no style or substance. So now you're just like watching a series of things happen, um, which don't quite make sense. And obviously there's so much plot just flying around and none of it really sticks. Um, yeah, it's just difficult. And I mean, Kate Beckinsale is good enough, but she's very one note. So I think if there was a little bit more to her character, maybe if
icy
there's more
British
to
demeanor.
the icy British demeanor, if
Actually,
there's
not
more to her
even that.
character in the
They've
other
they've
films.
they've neglected that. Just icy English demeanor. She's not from Wales, Scotland, or Ireland. She's just English.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna have to go as low as like maybe a C minus, which I kind of feel bad about. But at the same time, this era of movies is maybe it'll come around again, and these movies will have their time again. The way we look back at like 80s action movies and over the top horror, sci-fi, and all that
Shitting
stuff.
yourself through the floor.
Yeah, but for this time, this experience, I hoped it would set me on a path of like wanting to revisit all the Underworld movies, despite the fact I don't even know how many I've seen. But it hasn't. It's kind of it's thrown cold water on that. But I probably will still watch a couple more if I can. So I reckon C
When we've
minus,
not got a
unfortunately.
billion Fright Fest things to watch.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, so C minus, I think, Andy.
You know what, Ben? As much as it pains me, I'm much in the same boat as you. I enjoyed it in its day. I was a fan. I definitely owned this on home video cassette um, at the time. And I'm almost certain I did the same with the second one as well.
Yeah.
But this was one that I think it had its place in the past. I think you're right. Stylistically, it might have its comeback. And you know what? It's a fun movie. I think at its heart, it's not doing anything bad. It's not that it's like I think it maybe just takes itself a little bit too seriously, and for modern audiences, it also is a bit long as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could be a little bit more efficient, but
Yeah.
I love the moodiness of it. I love some of those elements to it. I think it would have benefited from a slightly stronger MacGuffin character that had a little bit more agency,
Yeah.
rather than being like, you know what, again, conjuring MCU and things like that. But if that person had just been an Infinity Stone, like a thing that you could fight over, rather than a person that you'd expect to have some kind of
Yeah.
control in this, let alone be the most important thing. I feel like in another draft of this film, you make Kate Beckinsale as the main character, the person that could be both. But then you can't have it both ways. She can't be an
Yeah.
ultimate badass from the beginning of the film
That's
and
true.
also be this person. So it's a hard thing to balance out, whereby the most powerful and special thing is never going to be the character that you're most interested in making a film about.
Mm.
Is that because you want to marry her in the future? Maybe. Or maybe it's just because she's the
he
best,
loves he loves his wife, or he loves his
thing. He
soon
loves
to be
his
wife.
soon to be wife, currently at time of filming, Michael Sheen's girlfriend and mother of his child. Come on. But
Come on.
you know what? And also always a love for Kevin Grevioux, the now the person that I've learned today's recording. I'm gonna text my friend and tell him this in a minute. Tell Matt about it. That he also wrote it. Ray's
Yeah.
himself.
He
I'll
also
always
wrote it
remember Ray's in
and
his very deep
possibly ripped.
voice.
He also wrote it and possibly ripped off some old books,
But
but
probably
probably
not
not.
settled out of court.
Probably not. I don't
Undisputed.
reckon.
We'll never know. Those records are sealed, Ben.
We'll never know.
But to get to my rating, I'm gonna break the D barrier, Ben. I'm gonna call it a D plus.
Oh, dear. I think maybe like I'm sitting in the sea because I've still kind of got like slightly fond memories of it, and I'm hoping that doesn't mean that the whole franchise is a write off, but it might do.
Yeah. Oh, I can totally accept that I know a lot of films that I rate beyond the thing, are like that beyond a D or a C, and like I think I gave my good old friends at Sleepaway Camp like a B because it's about how much I enjoyed them
Yeah,
or how
yeah,
much
yeah,
I'd watch them again. So don't take that as a mark of quality. I think I'm just giving it as a D for where it would sit in my
yeah.
ongoing enjoyment and watching this in the future. And it's a D plus. So that's all right.
There we go. Yeah, that's positive, isn't it? Yeah. There we go then. That was Underworld. Let us know what you think of this film, whether you still love it, or you never loved it. You know, you might have been like ahead of the curve. I never loved this film. It always sucked.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm going to be very quick to say, much as I'm giving this a D plus today, you asked 20 years ago, Andy, this, and I'd be like,
A
fucking
plus.
A. Literally, this is going on the essential shelf. There was a time in my life where you'd meet someone new and go, "Know any good action horror films, do you?" And they'd say, "Fucking strap in, everybody, because I'm going to show you a
Strap
film
in.
that's
I'll
going to
tell you,
blow
Bill.
your minds called Underworld." It's got pretty lovely Kate Beckinsale in it, Litchfield
Oh
own.
yeah.
Not
Oh
London, apparently. We've claimed her. It's got all these things. There's a guy, guess what? You've heard about vampires, right? Yeah.
oh yeah.
Imagine a vampire, yeah.
Okay.
Imagine a werewolf, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine them both being in the same thing? You'd say, can't.
Absolutely not.
Never happened. Get ready for it to happen.
Get ready to be mind blown, and your mind will be blown. Okay. So yeah, there we go. That is Underworld. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to our current patrons, including John Crinnan, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Toby Miller, Scott Rigby, Lane Spencer, Ollie Child, Leslie Carlo, Julia Bilgren, Nick Spill, Troy Bursch, Rosalind Harney S, and Pazuzu. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review. Head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Just search Horror Hangout Podcast. You'll find us. Next week, Anthology sequel, Creep Show 2. How
Yes.
exciting.
What a
How
lovely
exciting.
time. It was
Yeah,
me and Luke and I that did Creep Show 1 on a week you weren't available, Ben. So I'm looking forward to getting your take on a Creep Show
yeah. I
movie.
don't think I've seen it, so we'll look forward to that one. But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week. See you next time.
See you next
Don't
week. Next week, Ben, has never happened before. Never has been. There's never been a third week in August 2023. Don't think we're ever going to see it. Guess what's going to happen?
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. Me
See you
after you
later.
said it. See you soon. Bye.
Don't get Wes Borland. See you later.
Please, if you could, please avoid that at all costs.
Indeed. See you later.
Bye.